Get ready to plunge into the electrifying world of tech news with the Next Tech Check podcast. Hosted by SmartTech Research's Mark Vena and NextCurve's Leonard Lee. This podcast offers bold insights, controversial debates, and monitors the pulse of innovation. It's the only podcast committed to keeping what's next in tech in check.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Vena, CEO and Principal Analyst at SmartTech Research, and I'm here with Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst and founder of NextCurve. Welcome to the Next Tech Check podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. The focus on today's podcast is going to be is essentially reflecting on Apple's Vision Pro, which is celebrating its 1-year anniversary, I think technically on the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, but
it's sort of right.
Yeah. And Leonard and I were one of the first people to get one, and we had kind of an enthusiastic podcast about a year ago. So we wanted to, kind of say, hey, have our opinions changed or not? First thing, Leonard, though, before we get into the Vision Pro thing, you and I were at Samsung Unpacked. As I told you offline, I'm kind of unpacked myself.
So I'm surprised you're bringing it up.
Well, we might. Well, it's only because I'm talking to you since we got back from the event. Any thoughts, my friend, on Unpacked?
No, I thought it was interesting. A lot of themes that we talked about CES made its way into Unpack, right? So they're focused on AI plus health plus the home, right?
Yes. Mm.
And the role of Knox as being sort of this secure trust fabric for Samsung's vision of smart living, or what I call smart living. It was pretty cool. It was interesting to see that theme represent itself, or at least be showcased this year versus what we saw in the prior years. Right, last year it was all about AI, and then the previous year was like about cinema or something like that. Right, it was all about the camera, and this year, I don't know. It seems like the device is becoming less and less of the topic of focus. You know what I'm saying? In fact, it's hard to tell what really changed with the phone, other than its innards. You know what I'm?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, again, we could talk about this for 3 hours. The one thing I was impressed that you mentioned is the Samsung Security Knox suite. Knox has been part of their strategy for quite some time across their portfolio. But what's interesting about it, it just shows you that Samsung is recognizing that smartphones do have a role in the enterprise. The enterprise has very, very specific security requirements, and
Absolutely.
So I was impressed. Now the thing is, Samsung Unpacked is really a consumer. It's really a consumer-facing event. But the fact that Samsung does care about the enterprise.
Well, it cares about the household too. Apparently, I mean, we'll ultimately see how all this is implemented. But one of the interesting things is the way that they're architecting their privacy or trust architecture is it's really centered on the smartphone, right?
Oh yeah.
So with I think they call it the personalized data engine, personal data engine.
PDE.
PDE. PDE. We should call it PDE because that's a lot easier. That's situated to be kind of like this key to the household or your kingdom.
Yes.
And so it's an interesting approach. It's different than definitely what we're seeing from big fruit company that we're going to be talking about in a bit. But hey, the one thing that I was expecting more of was some news around Project Mohan, right? I mean, they did show the demo. I don't think it was a demo. It was just like a shell. A model on the show.
Yeah.
And then at CES they talked about Android XR, but there wasn't really any new news around Mohan or any association of how Samsung is expanding its strategy for let's call it spatial computing for a moment. beyond the headset, right? Which is what Apple is doing, because we're going to be talking about Vision Pro, and this is a good segue into that, I think, versus what Apple continues to do around the Vision Pro, despite all this talk about how it's a failed product.
Yes. That's a nice way. Well,
Yeah.
with that, let me bring the two or
Yeah.
three we have here, and I want to get your impression. Well, let me start with my impressions on what I've liked and what I haven't liked.
Okay.
I mean, the first one is an obvious one. I mean, I'm a technology geek like you are. Anything with a plug or a wireless connection, I'm a big fan of. And I was very excited. If you recall, their kickoff presentation for them was very, very impressive, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. Obviously, I didn't like the $3,500 price point. I mean, that's self obvious, but and guys with big
Yeah.
money like you don't care, but there are people who do care. I know you care. I know.
I
So I was very impressed with it. I think the attention to detail for those people who are watching this who haven't played with the Vision Pro, it's a visual experience that's second to none. I mean, the audio, it's superbly engineered. The choice of materials, the fact that the goggles themselves are designed in such a way that really blocks out your all extra sensory information, which obviously makes a much more thrilling experience. Not crazy about the weight,
yeah.
honestly. I mean, the weight, if which comes in, if you're using this as part of your workflows, could be a little bit, a little annoying after a while. I mean, it doesn't make you fall over, but you can definitely make it. The way I kind of analogize, it's like Apple the AirPod Pros, which are very heavy over the ear headphones versus some of the other ones that are on the market. But overall, though, I've been intrigued with it. I don't use it every single day. In truth, because I have it right now, it's on loan right now to a cousin, so I don't have it with me. But every time I have somebody over, the first thing they say, "Hey, is that the Vision Pros? Can I check them out?" Yeah, there you go. I knew you were going to have yours, and people get excited about it.
Okay.
And what we'll get into it, but I want to get your perspective first. Is that kind of energy level, that enthusiasm level that was really top of mind a year ago? It's kind of petered out, and then that bothers me a little bit because I think Apple could do something about that. But with that, let me get your impressions.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, we have to remember also when it was introduced a year ago, this is when the generative AI hype really started to take off. So a lot of attention has now been placed on generative AI, and we're seeing a lot of now effort a year after to figure out, well, how do we leverage generative AI now to shape the XR experience? And Meta's credit, they've sort of figured out a use case with the glasses, right? But you know, I think I don't think the Vision Pro is dead at all. And if anyone's thinking that Apple has given up on Vision Pro, then they better look at the latest version of Final Cut Pro. Again, there's so much focus on just the device. This is something that we said in the first podcast that we did. People are focusing too much on the device. And this is going to be, I think, a much longer term play, and it's going to be a strategic one for Apple. And the fact that they came to the market with something so premium only makes sense, because every other experience that I've seen, especially even this year at CES, it's actually really not that good. Even some of the headsets that were touted as being on par in terms of like maybe the display resolution and eye tracking or other types of features and capabilities that the Vision Pro had. I demoed a lot of stuff. They are just simply not up to snuff and a par with Vision Pro, and that is a very honest for people who are wondering, go and try it. Go and try these things, and then try the Vision Pro And what I find is a lot of people who have opined about the Vision Pro have either never tried it, which is funny. They've had a 30-minute demo, so they have a very myopic view and absolutely no chance to actually explore personal use cases with the device. And I think that's what something you and I have afforded ourselves because we bought these things and we're actually using them.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. I find that there's a lot of utility in it off the gate in terms of applications. I opined about it very early last year when about a month after using the device. So there's utility there straight off the bat because you can use a lot of iPad applications, etc. If you're a gamer, you're going to be pretty disappointed. But the spatial photos, videos, that really is the highlight. This is what I use.
No, there's no question about that. In fact, the thing that, and I believe, by the way, this is all anecdotal. I've been, I go to the Apple store over here in Vegas,
Yeah.
probably every twice a week. They hate to see me walk in there, and the Vision Pro still gets a lot of attention every time I'm there. Someone's getting a demo, and
Yeah.
and I encourage people who are watching this podcast, go to an Apple store and see that 2 or 3 minute demo with the dinosaurs. It's
Oh, that's
you're like, done. I'd love to have it. I mean, the entertainment experience just seeing that is remarkable. Remarkable. You know,
Yeah.
and I will say, and I want to be fair about this, is that the one usage model that I've only used it once, but it came in very handy. Is that I wasn't I wasn't in San Jose at Unpacked, but I was at another event where I drag along my 14-inch Mac, my trusty MacBook Pro. I love to have more real estate screen capability and putting my display, actually having this humongous display up in my vision, in my virtual vision is remarkable. I mean, it really, I mean, and sometimes you're in a hotel room, you might do some you've probably done this. You take, you try to tether your laptop to the TV in the room so you have kind of a second desktop.
Yeah.
Well, with these babies, you could just do that in a much more high fidelity, much more immersive way. And you and I do a lot of video. Anybody who does any type of video editing, try to do video editing on a 14-inch laptop. It is hard because you're interfacing with different applications. Video production is a linear type of experience, and there's nothing like having a 50, 80, 90-inch perspective when you're doing video editing. So I love that. I think
really okay. So here's the weird thing. I have not found productivity as being the main valuable use case. Where I did find it useful though, here is in like really, really weird situations, like on a plane. I've taken on international flights. Okay. So I went to Taipei. That flight took the Vision Pro. It was actually pretty awesome. And, it's especially useful if you're not in first class and you're in these increasingly scrunched up seats where you literally cannot even put a laptop in front of you, right? But if you have that keyboard, right, which will fit on the tray, and you put yourself in one of those virtual environments, and then you have that screen in front of you, this massive screen, man, that is a game changer for people in economy class. Well, but obviously, it's a quote unquote first class product, and not exactly priced for people who sit in economy like me.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
Save the bucks on a plane ticket, but invest it in Vision Pro and have a much more better travel experience.
Right. And then you put yourself in one of the virtual environments, right? Like the what is it? Mount Hood environment, nice and tranquil, have some noise canceling earbuds in. You're golden, right? You don't even know that you're in economy class.
But don't you think it's a bit of a challenge from a battery life standpoint? Because obviously you're using it on a plane, you got to use it with a battery.
You have to keep it plugged in. I mean, let's be real. I think one of the misconceptions and expectations that was just completely off base was that you're going to be walking around the streets with
Oh,
this
yeah.
right
Oh,
here,
that was
truck with it. It's like, come on.
that was always a joke. Yeah, that
Right.
was going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, in a lot of ways, I think Apple did a really poor job of counter marketing some of that silliness, and it undermined people's perception of the device. Right, number one, everyone thinks that it's very expensive, which usually, frontier products usually
Oh,
are expensive. Right, they're not for everybody, and the device is not for priced for everyone. It's priced for early adopters. Right.
plasma TV fits that exact definition back in the late 90s. You know,
Yeah. Is it a glimpse of the future? No, it's the glimpse of now. And I think that's another thing that Apple could have done a better job of saying, look, no, the future is here. So,
so you're
yeah,
not
I
going
think they did
to
a pretty crappy job.
you're
Huh?
not going to get the second topic. Is Apple really committed to Vision Pro? I agree
Oh,
with you.
no.
I think they are.
Yeah.
There are voices out there that will, well, kind of not really, because I think Apple has done a kind of they've been distracted, shall we say, on other things. Now there have been some rumors that there's been some rumors that they were going to have a less expensive AR glass project that got canceled. There hasn't obviously been any confirmation from Apple on that,
Yeah.
but that feeds into that narrative that Apple's giving up on these kind of new
No,
category
I
products.
don't think so.
And now you may see, by the way, let's be clear. It's early February. You've got the WWDC only about 4 months away. Can't believe it. It's only 2025. We're already talking about.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
But
Yeah.
I imagine Apple will probably they may see WWDC as a second way of relaunching, articulating their vision and strategy with Vision Pro. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's no doubt that there's still a lot of momentum and intention in the media industry looking at spatially formatted content. So it's happening. Live sports, concerts, their opportunities are there. Obviously, I think as others are fast following Apple, then there's going to be a market for the content. And I think some of that anxiety outside of the Apple ecosystem is going to support the formation of a critical mass in the market for that stuff. Eventually, it's not here yet, but this stuff, it's baby steps. But yeah, the rumors of the AR glasses, I have no idea. I don't know who comes up with the stuff, but
That
if
one
they
seems-
did
that- that
the
one
AR
seems-
glasses that are
Right.
tethered to a Mac, that I think that totally makes sense. And I also read that the Apple executives weren't happy with it. They didn't think it fit the bill. You know what? Good for them. No is always a great answer, and I think Apple's always been good at saying no to stuff that's kind of
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, if you were the head of marketing at Apple, not going
yeah,
to drop the act, but you, Leonard Lee, just got
yeah.
promoted to SVP of marketing at Apple. What are a couple of things you would do because
Oh
June,
my
July
god,
is a long time to wait away. Is a long. I
yeah.
know, and you can't say Super Bowl commercial. Unless the Super Bowl's next week. Although I wouldn't be surprised. I'll be proven wrong. There'll be a Super Bowl commercial
Yeah.
on Vision Pro. But what would you do? How would you light a fire and to promote some of the interest? Do you think it's just that they're not executing the marketing spend on content to promote it? Does the messaging have to be tweaked? I mean, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, my take is, yeah, this is an interesting question. If I should even do what my shoes. No, but I think one of the things that has a really practical thing that they haven't really highlighted, and it's sort of a missed value proposition, a universal value proposition for what they're trying to do with spatial computing, is the association of the Vision Pro plus the iPhone. iPhone has a spatial camera. It's I mean, it's unique. There's no other handset company out there right now offering spatial capture, right? I thought, actually, to tell you the truth, Samsung was going to announce something, and because they did an upgrade to one of the lenses to 50 megapixels, which matches what Apple did in increasing. I think it was the ultra wide lens to 48 megapixels, so that you might be able to capture a higher quality spatial either photo or video, right? But Apple hasn't really done a great job of telling that story, and that's like probably the most personal um, feature um, that is part of and is spatial computing. And we've completely missed the boat on that. And so, and then yet you have Meta talking about their glasses. They have the cameras, and everyone's raving about, oh, hey, I can have these first person, spatial movies and photographs. And it's like, okay, what part of that did Apple miss? And quite honestly, I don't think the AI stuff is going to be as big of a deal as everyone thinks. The contextual stuff is already there on the Vision Pro, because you enter a room, you don't have to scan it, you don't have to do anything; just knows your environment, right? So, um, you know, that's what I would say.
No, and we have about 5 minutes left here, and I want to keep this under 30 if we can. Is Apple Intelligence, because right now Vision Pro has been kind of devoid of the Apple Intelligence element. I'm sure we'll hear more about that when they rev Vision OS in the June time. Well, when they announce what they're going to do in June at WWDC. But is there an intersection between Apple Intelligence and what Vision Pro is trying to accomplish? Do you see that ultimately coming together in some way?
I don't know. What do you see? Let me turn it around on you. You keep asking all the questions.
But you have all the answers.
No, I don't.
I think when you look at Apple Intelligence, especially from an entertainment standpoint, and
Yeah.
also from a content creation standpoint, I have found the Apple Intelligence features on the latest versions of iOS pretty engaging. Now, the question is that, how do you translate that phone experience into a Vision Pro experience? Apple does a great job of. I mean, listen. You and I were raving about how Apple kind of figured out the virtual keyboard data entry with the current version of Vision Pro. I mean, they kind of really solved the problem. It's eye movements, and it's they really nailed it from an experience standpoint.
Yeah.
I suspect what you'll hear a lot about is how they'll be able to take Apple Intelligence and be able to morph that into a very not just an immersive experience, but something that's very much intuitive. That's that's the value proposition that AI offers. Yes. And that's pretty abstract what I just said, but Apple is good at taking the abstract and making it appealing. So that would be my take.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of folks are getting ahead of themselves with their on-device AI. And so I'm not picking on Apple here. I think I universally pick on everyone about this. I think probably the most important headline related to Apple is they're having to back out news summaries because the summaries were producing um, inaccurate summaries of like news articles, right? Which I think is very dangerous.
Yes.
So if we take that as an example of on-device AI and the quality, level of accuracy and response, its ability to truly be able to determine your intent.
Right.
I think we're a long way from that, despite what a lot of these companies, including Apple, are trying to push. So making these kind of blatant mistakes where AI is being applied to things that are a little bit more dependent on accuracy and being right. We're seeing these agents, if you will, or fall on their faces. I mean, now think about what it can do to your own life. And, I think users have to think about how fragmented and how many holes they have in their own data that are just going to be fuel for hallucinations, right? So this assumption that the data on your phone is perfect, I think, is delusional. And then in application, applying these technologies on top of that delusion is potentially detrimental, if not dangerous.
Oh, but,
So
well,
I think all
I
these
think
guys have to be
Vision Pro.
super cautious about this.
No, and I agree with that. But a Vision Pro experience is not going to help that problem. That problem is fundamental to the
Oh,
algorithms, and whether it's on a phone or an iPad. So I agree with you fundamentally. If Apple Intelligence, especially from a news summary standpoint, if it's, and there have been some reports, I've seen some of those stories where it's just not measuring up to the level of
yeah.
robustness that Apple promised,
Yeah,
frankly.
but it relates to what potential it has in being applied and shape, augmenting or shaping Vision Pro experience is that if it's not if it's just kind of like a trivial thing like Genmoji, it could be fun and that
Right.
might be cool. Anything beyond that, I think is going to be a very um, is going to be a very treacherous exercise where I think these companies, all of them, Apple, Google,
Oh, yeah.
Samsung,
Meta.
Meta, all these guys are going to have to be very judicious and not just throw things out there and experiment on people's lives. I think that's my thought.
No, I agree. I agree. And my
Yeah.
close. We've got a couple of minutes left here. Where I was going with my previous comments was, I absolutely agree with what you just outlined. Where I was going with, there could be some, one of the things that that Apple promised with Vision Pro in the entertainment area is that you could experience sports in a completely different way. I mean, I think if in the original keynote, they showed an NBA basketball game in kind of like 3D, and you could pretty much with a Vision Pro NBA app, you could pretty much position yourself anywhere in
Sides.
the arena. But where I think intelligence might happen, and this is probably more suitable for football than it is for basketball, is that I could see situations, gamblers rejoice, where you're watching the Super Bowl, and Apple Intelligence, based on all the data that's available in real time, could say, you know what, there's a 79% chance that the next play is a pass to this player, that kind of thing, and maybe you even see it before it even happens. And
Okay.
that happens. That there, I think I want to say ESPN does it already to a degree, but if you could start experiencing that, with big sporting events, that's it takes entertainment, especially viewing sports in a
Yeah.
fundamentally different way. I'll give you the last word, Leonard.
Yeah, I don't so yeah, I think in terms of AI, it's the simple stuff that I think has the most impact. One of the coolest things that they introduced was 2D to 3D for photos.
Mhm. Yes.
Now, if they can do that with video, that's going to be
Oh,
insane.
yes.
Again, these are, this is AI that works, sort of. It's not perfect because, there's it's not like if you took a spatial photo of something, but there's nothing cooler than seeing yourself when you were 18 years old in 3D and your
Oh,
friends and your family. It's friggin' cool as hell.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
Apple doesn't talk about this stuff enough. This is the spatial experience. And you know, they're pioneering it
Yep.
and they're missing out. They're letting unjustified negative press basically take down what I think is a great product that is being deconstructed, by the way, by others who are trying to create, isolated or more like cheaper devices that can deliver a fraction of the Vision Pro experience. That's what we saw at CES. So if you're wondering what's happening in XR, that's what's happening. Deconstructing of the Vision Pro. So the Vision Pro is not gone.
No, no, no. I think you and I are aligned in that. So let's leave it there. Let me
Yeah.
bring up our famous QR codes. Leonard, thanks for participating in today's podcast. And thanks everyone for making the next Tech Check podcast part of your day or commute. Please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons at the end of today's podcast, or use these on-screen QR codes to connect with us. You can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm going to not say that anymore, at the handles below. Thanks again, Leonard.
All right. We'll see.